The Allen County Sheriff's Debate, streaming live on Wayne.com. Now, here's your hosts, Wayne 15's Alyssa Ivinson and Dirk Rowley.
And good evening, and thanks for joining us here live on Wayne.com.
For the next hour, the two candidates for Allen County Sheriff will answer questions about a variety of topics, including many submitted to us from viewers.
We're partnering with the League of Women Voters of Fort Wayne for this debate, and you'll hear them ask some of the questions tonight as well.
Purdue, Fort Wayne, and the Mike Downs Center for Indiana Politics also partnering with us. Political science professor Mike Wolf is here with us. He'll be asking questions tonight as well. Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.
The two candidates for Allen County Sheriff are here in the Wayne 15 studio. Republican Troy Hirschberger is Chief Deputy for the Allen County Sheriff's Department. Democrat Kevin Hunter is a captain on the Fort Wayne Police Department and leads the Vice, Narcotics, and Internal Affairs Unit. Thanks you to both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, the candidates have not seen or heard the questions before tonight. Before we get to those questions, let's first go over the format for the debate. Both candidates were sent these parameters ahead of time and agreed to them. With each question, we will alternate who answers first. Each candidate will get 1 minute to answer the question. Each candidate will also be allowed 30 seconds to respond to any follow-up questions or rebuttals. There are no opening statements, but there will be closing statements at the end.
So let's get started. First, very simply, what do you see as the role of the sheriff? And if you were writing the job description, how would you word it? Troy, we'll start with you.
The role of the sheriff is the head of the Allen County Sheriff's Department. It's a constitutional position provided by the state constitution. And the role is to lead our jail staff of 145 people and 142 starting January 1st of next year, police officers to handle patrol, investigations, vice and narcotics, and our warrants division, civil division, and all the other aspects that the sheriff is responsible for, such as building security at the courthouse, at the Rousseau Center, and the courthouse annex.
All right, thank you. Kevin, same question. What do you see as the role of the sheriff?
Well, I see the role of the sheriff as being a leader for the community. Our current sheriff has been missing in action for the last few years. And what I will tell you is, as the next sheriff, or if I'm elected sheriff, I will make sure that I'm a proactive leader and a collaborative leader, going out in the community, working with others, and making sure we're taking on the issues of drug dealing and making sure our schools are really safe, and working with the community to make sure that everything is going well. And being the leader of the Sheriff's Department, making sure that I'm setting the tone for the officers going forward and making sure that I'm leading with integrity.
Troy, any rebuttal?
As far as school safety, I've been involved in school safety, the School Safety Commission, for over 20 years when it was first started. And been an integral portion of my job is to increase the number of police officers with the Sheriff's Department by increasing our number of school resource officers. We totally have 12. We're in 4 in Northwest Allen, we have 4 in East Allen, and we have 3 in Southwest Allen, and we're also in Canterbury High School. So we take school safety very serious, and it's an integral part of our training on an annual basis.
Kevin, you get an additional 30 seconds.
I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next question. Kevin, we'll start with you for this question. What advantage or disadvantage would you have if you're elected sheriff coming from the Fort Wayne Police Department?
Well, one advantage I would have coming from the Fort Wayne Police Department is I have worked with all the officers with the Fort Wayne Police Department, and I could bring that to the Sheriff's Department and that working relationship with the Fort Wayne Police Department. That's something that we could really improve on, having a good working relationship between both agencies. We're in the same building, yet we don't always talk on a regular basis. So having that ability to have that communication skills with the Fort Wayne Police Department would really be helpful going forward and make things good for both agencies.
So Troy, similarly, what advantage or disadvantage do you have if you're elected sheriff already being on the department?
Well, currently as Chief Deputy, I am responsible for all the duties in the absence of the sheriff and currently handle that today. The advantage I would have is I've spent my entire career with the Sheriff's Department, 32 years plus, 33 coming next month. So I've worked in all the divisions. I spent my first 7 years in the jail, supervisor in the jail, And I've been a patrol supervisor, been our investigations unit supervisor. I've been our internal affairs officer. I've also handled Deputy Chief of Operations, which is all our staff out in the field, and I've been the Deputy Chief of Administration, which handled things such as budget and personnel matters, and for the last 18 months I've been the Chief Deputy. With that being said, that gives me the advantage of that institutional knowledge that is necessary to take the reins January 1st.
Kevin, do you have any rebuttal?
Yes, I do. So Troy and I have very similar years of experience in law enforcement, yet my experience is so much far superior. I am a graduate of the FBI National Academy. I'm a graduate of the FBI National Crisis Negotiation course. I have a master's degree in organizational leadership, and I'm certified by the U.S. State Department to teach hostage negotiations all over the world, and that leadership really matters.
Troy, you also have 30 seconds if you like.
I, like Kevin, I'm a graduate at IPFW, graduated with a degree in criminal justice. I am a graduate of the National Training Center of Polygraph Science. I had a specialty assignment as a polygraphist and ran our unit. I'm also a graduate of the FBI Hazardous Devices School, where I was a certified bomb squad technician and ran our bomb squad unit. I was also a member of our SWAT team as well as a canine handler. And 10 years ago or 11 years ago, when we located into the Rousseau Center, I worked very diligently, very hard with current Assistant Chief Carl Niblick in achieving that.
Back to Troy to answer first. What is something the Sheriff's Department is doing well that you'd continue, and what is something that needs to be improved, and how would you change it?
Our school resource officer program is very important. We just had a shooting a couple days ago at a school, and I don't know all the details yet, but I would suspect that a school resource officer or the police department itself was very instrumental in stopping that. So we take school safety very, very seriously and have since Columbine, when we joined the School Safety Commission nearly 20 years ago. We've increased number of officers over that time by adding to that school resource officer program and taking that very serious. That is very important for our community, and it's very important for our officers to work in collaboration with those school systems. Things that we could always do better, we could always do better in what we do in the community, in improving our community relations, which if elected sheriff and when I'm elected sheriff, I've already started laying some of that. We've improved our website. We've improved our social media immensely. I've also included us to improve working with different things in the community, such as the Cunard Farms Fall Festival.
Kevin, same question. What's the Sheriff Department doing well, and what needs to be improved?
Well, I also believe that the Sheriff's Department has a really good school resource officer program. Again, 12 officers, that's outstanding. Here's the issue, though. Let's make sure that those school resource officers have all the training in active shooter situations, and that they're actively working with both the school administrations and the teachers to practice those situations. So when school shooting situations or other incidents come up, they have actually practiced those situations and are good at dealing with that. So that is one thing that I would do a little differently. Things that could be improved, certainly faster response times for the Sheriff's Department would be good. I would buy a predictive analytics program to position officers all over the county based on previous runs and make it so that we're responding in a quick manner.
Troy, do you have any rebuttal?
We currently are implementing technology called Cradlepoint to help us out. This is a large county, 660 square miles. And as a policeman out there in the rural county, in the unincorporated areas, and a veteran of that, you'll learn how to do things by yourself. It's a different style of policing than working on the streets of Fort Wayne, where backup is a few blocks away. Our backup is several miles away. So when you work in the jail, you understand how to communicate with people, and that's what teaches us when we work that jail, the communication skills it takes to handle it out in the public.
Kevin, rebuttal?
No, thank you.
All right, well, then you get the next question. Kevin, what is, this is a similar question, the most underutilized resource on the department now, and how would you change that?
The most underutilized resource on the department, in my opinion, would be the crisis negotiators. They are really good at active listening skills. Those officers in the crisis negotiation unit should be teaching all the others in the agency what active listening is and practicing that on a regular basis. Because when we listen to people in the community, we can hear their issues and they know that they're being heard. So using those crisis negotiators to train the others is really an important thing, and that's what I would do.
Troy, same question. The most underutilized resource in the department, and how would you change that?
Our most underutilized tool right now is probably our K-9 unit. We built a big building, a large building, training center for it. We do a very good job in training. We do a very good job of getting our dogs out on the street. I would like to improve and utilize our K-9 unit in a more effective way in interdiction out on our highways and ensuring drugs are not coming into our community. We cannot help fix the addiction problem that we have in our community unless we make it difficult for the drugs to come into our community. So I would make that a priority with our K-9 unit and challenge them to step out and utilize them in an interdiction situation.
Kevin, any rebuttal?
Yes. So what I would do is make sure that we are doing parcel interdictions to stop the drugs coming into the community, because when we intercept those drugs before they get dispersed to our community, that's making our community safer, and it's also keeping these drugs out of the schools and keeping our children safer.
And Troy, you have 30 seconds if you'd like.
Actually, that's one thing our K-9 unit is used for on a regular basis, to do searches at the different package places. Without naming names, we are called in there to assist on numerous occasions with our Vice and Narcotics unit in developing that relationship when something is suspected.
All right, moving on to our next question. Earlier today in a Wayne 15 Twitter poll, we asked what is the most important issue facing the department? Here are those poll results. Nearly half of the people said crime in the county, followed by jail conditions, and then a new jail. Finally, there you can see another issue not listed on those previously mentioned. So that goes along with the next question, which was submitted by the League of Women Voters of Fort Wayne. That question was recorded earlier. Troy, you will start this answer first after the video plays. So here's the question.
What do you think is the top priority issue to address if you become sheriff?
So again, what is the top priority issue that you would address if you become sheriff?
Well, the top priority, as in any police department, is to effectively go after crime. Our crime stats in the county usually stay pretty level. We do not see a spike or we do not see a sudden drop. Generally, if we see a spike, it's maybe because we had a homicide. But that is our core responsibility, is to work with the citizens in the community in keeping crime in check.
So Kevin, same question. What is your top priority issue to address if you become sheriff?
Well, my top priority for crime is directly related to drugs. If we go after all the drug dealers and stop those drugs from coming into our community, that's in turn going to make our community safer. It's going to keep our kids safe in the schools, and it's also going to reduce crime overall, because less drugs in the community, there will be less crime as a result of that. So targeting those drug dealers, making sure that we're getting and keeping the drugs from getting out in the community, that is my biggest issue that, as I see, for crime.
Troy, any rebuttal?
I would agree. Drugs fuel crime. And as I said previously, if we do not keep drugs out of our community, we can't begin to help addiction issues. So we need to effectively go after the drug dealers and keep it out of our community, and hopefully reduce some of those low-level felonies that the drug dealer or drug addicts commit the crimes to fuel their own addiction problems.
Kevin, 30 seconds if you like.
No, thank you.
Our next question was submitted by former Allen County Sheriff Republican candidate Mitch McKinney. He asks, how can we expect to see you in the community? What is your outreach plan to lead from the front? Kevin, we'll start with you.
Well, I plan on making sure that I'm going out in the community, doing regular press conferences with the community, making sure that they know and everybody in this community knows what the Sheriff's Department is doing on a regular basis. I will make sure that we're getting out there and connecting with the community that we serve, going to the rural areas and talking with people, going to the fire departments, and making sure that they know what we're doing and what's going on. And I'll have an open communication with whoever wants to talk with me, because I feel that making sure that we are connecting with the people we serve is very, very important.
Troy, same question. How can people expect to see you in the community?
You have to lead by, excuse me.
Sorry, please.
You have to lead by example, and I believe in that. We already have community resource officers in Huntertown, where we have 2 officers. We're in the Leo, Cedarville, and Grable area with a community resource officer. And I just worked very diligently and hard with landing our 4th community resource officer in the town of Monroeville. What my plan is to meet with the town councils on a regular basis, at least once a month, or at least once a quarter. Whatever they will have, so we can come in and talk to them and see what their needs are, because the public are our eyes and ears out there to fight crime.
Kevin, do you have any rebuttal?
My rebuttal would be, I've always been a collaborator, so not only just getting out in the community, but working with others in the community to solve these problems as we are seeing them come up in our community. So being a big collaborator is very important to me.
Troy, rebuttal?
No.
All right, let's turn our attention now to the jail. It's certainly a hot topic in the county as the Sheriff's Department and county commissioners work to lower the inmate population and build a new potential jail. So Troy, this question comes to you first. What is your solution to the jail overcrowding issue?
Well, when you talk overcrowding, all the people in our jail, it's not controlled by the sheriff, it's controlled by the judicial system. They set the sentences, they set the bond. So it has to start with working with the system itself, and that's the judges. I am on the local JRAC committee, which is the Justice Reinvestment Advisory Council, and that was brought about because of state law, and getting the collaborators of the system, of the criminal justice system, together to see what the best solution is to fixing through these problems.
Kevin, same question. What is your solution to the jail overcrowding issue?
Well, the very first thing is I would create a robust jail chemical addiction program. So a jail chemical addiction program that would include hiring psychologists that have cognitive behavioral therapy training and using medical assisted treatment in the jail, so we can get the people who have substance use disorder the help and treatment that they need, so they're not cycling in and out of the criminal justice system. Next, I would work with all the court system to make sure that we have the proper people in the jail, because there are some people there right now that are awaiting trial that maybe really don't need to be there. Let's do an assessment and make sure that we're getting the right people in the jail that need to be there.
Troy, any rebuttal?
There are over 9,000 people in the criminal justice system, and as of today, there were 688 in the jail. That's just a little over 7%. So the people in our jail are the people who have nowhere else to go. There's no other place to put them. And I would agree, a jail chemical addiction program is successful and will be successful, as I started one on August the 1st. And we have 2 weeks to go with our pilot program in getting them graduated. And I'm very delighted to say that I'm happy with their success that I see. And I only hope that they will help them in their future.
Kevin, 30 seconds to you.
Yeah, so I've been talking about a jail chemical addiction program for several years now. We actually met with had a group meet with the sheriff and tried to talk him into starting this program a few years ago, and he shot that down. And now all of a sudden, August 1st, we have a new jail chemical addiction program. Coincidence? Probably not.
All right, Kevin, you get to clean up or lead off, I guess, on this one. Quality Correctional Care, current medical provider at the jail. Are you happy with its service that it's providing to inmates, or would you want to change providers?
Well, most recently it's been reported that there were 5 nights on third shift that there were little or no medical providers from this company. That is a huge problem, because having almost 700 people in the jail with no medical service, if something were to arise, And those people are also helping the confinement officers if something happens to them too. So that's a huge problem. We really ought to have some oversight of this company. We pay them $3 million a year for their services. And are we getting the services we deserve? You know, those are taxpayer dollars. That's a huge issue. We need to make sure that we have oversight of this company and that we're getting what we deserve.
Troy, same question. Happy with the jail medical provider, or would you want to change them?
QCC is a company based in Indiana. They are in over 70 jails in the state of Indiana, and they work very hard and close with the Indiana Sheriff's Association. The particular incident that Kevin refers to where nobody was working, that's not true. That is completely false, that we did have a nurse. We always have a nurse in the building. In fact, every prisoner that is arrested is screened through the nursing services upon intake.
All right, Kevin, any opportunity for rebuttal?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you both.
Every month, inmates spend between $150,000 and $200,000 on commissary items. That's money that supplements the Sheriff Department's budget. Troy, what changes, if any, would you make to how the commissary is run or the money is spent?
Well, commissary is set up by state law, and it's controlled by the State Board of Accounts. What I propose to do with it is I propose to effect a budget and have specific needs as to what we're going to spend that money on. It's pretty broad what that money can be spent on. It's for the betterment of the department and can be used for several things. We've used it to replace dishwashers in the jail. We've used it to buy cars. We've used it to purchase ammunition. And next year, since we were slashed 25% in our auto budget, we will use it for automobiles next year. My proposal is, in the long term, and I'm going to budget for, is probably the use of body cameras in the future.
Kevin, same question. What changes, if any, would you make to the jail commissary and how it's run or the money, how the money is spent?
Well, the very first thing I would do if elected is use that commissary fund to commission a comprehensive needs assessment of the entire criminal justice system to see what kind of jail that we need going forward. You know, the commissioners are talking about building a 1,500 bed, $350 million jail. You know, do we really need that? The thing is, we don't know because there's not been a comprehensive study on the entire criminal justice system to see if we need that. The criminal justice system is very complex. You have police agencies, you have probation, you have the courts, you have home detention, and all those are going to impact the jail. Let's use that money for a study to see what we need going forward. That is really important to me.
Troy, do you have any rebuttal?
No.
All right, thank you both. We have another video question from the League of Women Voters of Fort Wayne. Kevin, you will answer this first, so here's the question.
What procedures would you implement to ensure that individuals detained in Allen County Jail but not yet convicted are allowed to vote or informed of their right to vote?
Kevin?
Could you repeat that question?
Again, what would you do to ensure inmates in the Allen County Jail who have the right to vote are given that right to vote?
I would make sure that every inmate who has the right to vote has that opportunity. They have iPads or electronic devices that we could make sure that we get them signed up in time to vote or either absentee ballot voting as well. And I would make sure that every inmate has that right.
Troy, same question. How do you ensure inmates in the Allen County Jail not yet convicted have the opportunity to vote?
We already ensure that. The information does go out on their pads, and it is posted. We would provide them with absentee ballots and get those submitted for them.
And Kevin, any rebuttal? I know we just caught you mid-drink there, but give you the opportunity to respond.
No, thank you.
All right, thank you both.
Okay, many people end up in jail for drug crimes, and treating mental health is often tied to combating the drug crisis, sometimes even tied to sentences from the courts. I know we touched on this briefly ahead of this question, but Troy, we'll start with you. What is the Sheriff's Department's or the jail's role in mental health care?
Well, it's no secret, nearly 20 years ago, when the state deinstitutionalized the mental health facilities, where'd those folks go? Well, some of them ended up in our jail. And with our community provider of Park Center and utilizing their resources and teaming with them, we get the help that we need. In my opinion, through QCC, we have a licensed mental health therapist on duty. I would like to add a second one because it's very important that we meet the needs of the mental health in our facility. It is a challenge, and that is something that we really need to improve on.
Kevin, same question. What is the Sheriff Department's role or the jail's role in mental health care?
Well, so since the pandemic, we know that mental health has been a severe issue for people in this community. So I would make sure that we have counselors on hand in the jail to help inmates that have mental health issues. I would also make sure that we are keeping those inmates that have mental health issues that are having prescription medications that are working for them, that they have those prescription medications and continue to use that instead of going to some generic form, because we know that once a person stops taking the medicine that they're using for their mental health issues, they can decompensate very quickly, and that's going to cause problems for that person and for the confinement officers as well. So figuring out a way to get medication that they need to keep them well, that's important to me.
Troy, any rebuttal?
No.
All right, our next question, also submitted by a viewer. Stan Davis wrote that you both have agreed that opioid and prescription drug use, especially with the increasing prevalence of fentanyl, is a countywide drug problem. How do you propose to solve this spiraling issue? And Kevin, we start with you.
Well, I've already talked about this a little bit. You know, starting with doing drug interdiction, starting with parcel interdiction, highway interdiction, getting the drug dealers off the street, keeping the drugs from hitting the streets, that's really important. We need to make sure that we have robust interdiction services so that we're keeping those drugs from not only hitting our streets, but hitting our schools as well. Because fentanyl, it only takes 2 milligrams of fentanyl to overdose and kill someone. The Fort Wayne Police Department seized 5,100 grams of fentanyl last year. That's over 2.5 million fatal doses. Fentanyl is such a deadly product. We have got to stop that from getting into our area and stop it from getting into our schools.
Troy, same question. What is the role of the sheriff and your department to stop fentanyl?
I would agree with what Kevin said. We also are involved in the Federal Drug Task Force, and I believe that is important because they can bring the resources to help fund what we need to do. This is a free, open country, greatest country in the world. I don't know that we'll ever stop drugs coming into this country because the free choice that we have and the great country that we are. But again, we need to utilize our resources and do the best we can in preventing that from coming to our community, because we cannot help the addiction side of things until we make it difficult for those drugs to come to our community.
Kevin, anything to add? Any rebuttal?
Yeah, I would also add that, working with all of our federal law enforcement partners, the FBI, the DEA, ATF, is really important to stop these drugs, because those federal law enforcement partners have tools that the Sheriff's Department and police departments don't have, and they can give bigger hits as far as crime goes and get these drug dealers off the streets.
Troy, a chance to add 30 seconds.
No.
All right.
As legalizing marijuana use in Indiana is discussed on the state level, and 2 neighboring states have different drug laws than we do currently, what priorities should be given to policing and pursuing marijuana possession and dealing arrests and charges? Troy, we'll start with you.
Well, we as police officers, we're tasked with enforcing the law. And as long as it is a crime, then we will make the arrest given the situation. I take all drugs serious, and if there's any report of any drug dealing, regardless of what it is, we need to stop that, because an addict will utilize whatever it takes to get that next high. It's not just one drug of choice. So until it's made legal, it will be enforced because it is against the law.
Kevin, same question. What priorities should be given to policing and pursuing marijuana possession and dealing arrests and charges?
Well, so what we know about marijuana is it is definitely a gateway drug. And what we're seeing is Marijuana from the 1970s was about 4% THC concentration, but right now the marijuana bud is about 10 to 12% concentration. And then throw in these high concentration THC products, the gummies, the THC vaping cartridges, and the wax, and you're talking 80 to 90% THC concentration. We're having kids in schools use these THC vaping cartridges. They're falling out, they're having to go to the hospital for an overdose, and we just can't have that. These products are very, very dangerous, and they can cause psychotic episodes, and in even some cases, they can cause schizophrenia if abused too much. So I'm against the high concentration THC products.
Troy, do you have any rebuttal?
No.
Moving on to another topic, domestic violence arrests in Allen County are down so far this year, and we've reported on this previously. In the first 9 months this year, the 866 arrests for domestic violence and strangulation, which are generally grouped together, is less than half of all of last year's 1,780 arrests. Obviously, the department responds to calls and incidents when they happen, but is there a role the Sheriff's Department can play in preventing domestic violence in Allen County? Kevin, we'll start with you for this question.
So domestic violence is a huge issue for our community. Even though your stats show that it's down, I just spoke with somebody from the YWCA, and their domestic violence shelters are at capacity and even over capacity. So that tells me that we have a huge problem with this issue. I am serving on a committee right now to look at domestic violence problem-solving court within the DCS system, and that looks at the whole system, so not just the violator, but the victim and the family itself. So trying to make everybody whole again through that problem-solving court is a real good thing and will help lower domestic violence cases in the future.
Tori, same question. Is there a role the Sheriff's Department can play in preventing domestic violence in Allen County?
Sure there is. That's part of our job, is to help prevent crime, and it's done through education. Some of our school resource officers, they're not just there to be security guards. They're there as mentors, coaches, confidants of some of these kids that may be experiencing some of this. I spent 5 years on the board of directors as the second or third male on the YWCA, and even spent time as the secretary. I helped funded and supported the YWCA shelter. I was on the Mayor's Commission of Domestic Violence, Rape, and Sexual Harassment. And involved in those organizations is part of that job and responsibility that the police department, sheriff's department brought in helping preventing these incidents in our community.
Kevin, do you have any rebuttal?
Yes. So I'm also on the Mayor's Task Force for Domestic Violence, Rape, and Sexual Assault. And one thing that I would do differently for the Sheriff's Department is make sure that we're doing lethality assessments for the victims of domestic violence cases, so they're aware of everything that's going on and they know the issues going forward.
Troy, 30 seconds.
No.
Our next question is asked on video by a Carroll High School senior. Troy, you will answer first.
As violence in schools is prevalent across the country, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the School Resource Officer Program?
Oh, we have a lot of strengths. 20 years ago, when we got involved with the School Safety Commission, a lot of things evolved from that. You'll see numbers on doors. You'll see places at the front door where you just can't walk in. You have security checkpoints to come into the school, and you'll see doors locked. That all evolved over time. With our School Resource Officer Program, we reevaluate every year through our training and through our discussions with the SROs as to how we move forward in our training of our officers with the Sheriff's Department. So the program in general is the strength. We grew it from its infancy to 12 officers and 2 supervisors today who are in collaboration and work with the principals, but the school administrators as well. And again, they're not there to be security guards. They're there as teachers, mentors, sometimes coaches, and they're there to get the eyes and ears and confidence of the children that are in our schools to try to stop the potential violence before it starts.
Kevin, same question. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the School Resource Officer Program?
Well, one of the main strengths of a School Resource Officer Program is that the school resource officer builds these relationships with the students in the schools and communicates with them on a regular basis. My kids went to Carroll High School, and most recently, Kristen Lewis, they still talk about Kristen and all the good things that she did in that school and building those relationships with those kids. You know, any kid could go to her on a regular basis and say, hey, look, here's a problem, or so-and-so's got drugs on them now, and that issue would be taken care of. So making sure that the school resource officers create these great relationships with the kids so that those kids feel comfortable enough to go to that school resource officer when there's an issue, that's really important.
Troy, do you have any rebuttal?
Yes, we have a school resource officer dog program where we take not police dogs that you would normally see that are there for attack, aggression, work, and safety of our officer, but we have school resource officer dogs who are there for therapy and for to engage with the students and interact with the students for the drugs and the guns and help keeping those out of our schools.
Kevin, rebuttal?
No.
All right, Kevin, well, you get to answer this one first. We in the media often ask for transparency and answers from law enforcement, bringing questions to you on behalf of our viewers and the public. So if elected sheriff, how would you work more closely with us in the press for transparency to better serve taxpayers?
Well, I have always felt that transparency is a huge issue for law enforcement in general, and that's something that we can always do a better job of. I have always worked very closely with the news media, even having some go on ride-alongs with us, and that's really important. And being as transparent as I can be, getting ahead of any issues that might come up, and having those relationships with the news media so that you all can report what's going on a regular basis and give the public the information that they need to make their own decisions.
Troy, same question. If elected sheriff, how would you work more closely with the media for transparency to better serve the public?
Well, working with the media and having transparency is a must. We've worked hard over the last year to 18 months in implementing a better social media platform so we can interact with the public. In addition, and it would cost and will cost a lot of money, are the body cameras. I believe that we need body cameras for our officers out in the field. I believe that keeps everybody in check. It keeps our officers honest, and it protects them because they have a difficult job to do.
Kevin, any rebuttal to that?
Yeah, the rebuttal, I would also make sure the officers have body cameras. Again, that would go a long way in transparency, and I totally agree with that idea.
Troy, chance to add for 30 seconds?
Yeah, it's been a priority of mine with technology, and it will be expensive. It'll cost $750,000 to get this accomplished.
So along the same lines of immediate transparency, the Fort Wayne Police Department has a call log that is public. Anyone can see what initial call the officers are dispatched to, where that call is, and when it happened. It is updated at about a 2-hour delay. The Sheriff Department's call log on the department's website is updated the next day. Would you change that to make the Sheriff Department call log information available to the public more quickly? Troy, this is your question first.
Sure, that makes sense. If we have technology that can get that done, I'm all for it. Our website will be updated, and that is something that we can definitely look at if that helps the media out.
Kevin, to you then, would you make the Sheriff's Department call log update in the same day and not have it delayed a day?
Absolutely. Again, that goes a long way for transparency, and absolutely, there's no reason not to.
Any rebuttal, Troy?
No.
Okay, moving on then.
All right, another video question from a recent Purdue Fort Wayne graduate who's also a veteran and a father of 3. Kevin, you'll answer this question first.
As Fort Wayne grows, Allen County is becoming more diverse. Do you feel that diversity is represented in the Sheriff's Department? If not, what would you do to change it?
Okay, that's a great question. I would start a recruiting team within the Allen County Sheriff's Department to go out into the community and talk with the community and try to recruit people that look like what our community is made up of. That means going to colleges and universities to talk with people that are in the criminal justice programs or others that might be interested in law enforcement. That is really important, going out in the community and making sure that we're hiring, first of all, qualified candidates, but also candidates that look like the community that we serve.
Troy, to you, is the community's diversity represented in the Sheriff's Department? And if not, should it be? And how would you change that?
I would like to improve on that. We have 32 at this point of our officers between confinement staff and police staff. We could improve on that. We already have a full-time recruitment team of 3 people that are in the colleges, as well as working on a partnership now with JA, and relying on our school resource officers to build that coalition with the students, that as an 18-year-old kid, they can come to work at the Allen County Jail. We changed how we did things in our hiring process for police officers. We recognized the fact that we had to get people into our jail, and we had to get workers and retain workers. So by doing so, we only promote police officers from the ranks of our confinement officers. So as we bring them in to the jail, we give them all the tools and resources needed to propel themselves to police officer status if they wish. We also spend about $50,000 a year of commissary monies in recruitment and advertising.
Kevin, do you have any rebuttal?
Yes, I do. My opponent talked about hiring 18-year-olds to work in the confinement facility. I think that's wrong. Me as a parent, I would not want my 18-year-old child working in the Allen County Jail. First of all, their brains are not fully developed, and second of all, they could easily be taken advantage of in that situation. An 18-year-old has no business working as a confinement officer in the jail.
Troy, rebuttal?
Our only officer ever killed in the line of duty was Eric Heck. And he came to work at the jail as an 18-year-old kid, and he progressed very well. See, there are 2 things that police officers make out on the street the biggest mistake. One is poor driving habits sometimes, and the second is poor communication skills. What better place to learn communication with a diverse population is working at the Allen County Jail.
All right, thank you both. Another viewer question now. Nancy McCammon Hansen wrote, with a change in the prosecuting attorney after the election, how do you see that office working with the sheriff on local crime issues? Troy, we start with you.
Oh, I work very well with Mike McAlexander and know him professionally very well. What I would implement with him is my idea of working with this JCAP program. Instead of funneling some of the harder people directly to our alternative sentencing programs, perhaps we need to keep them in the jail and funnel them to the JCAP program to give them an opportunity to buy into this. Because if they don't buy into it there, then we can just move them back to a block and warehouse them. Because if we just pipeline them to some of the alternative sentencing programs and they're not ready, then they can disappear in the community, and then it's the sheriff's department that has to hunt them down on the warrant. And that's very inefficient for us.
Kevin, same question. Under a new prosecutor after the election, how do you see working with him and you on local crime issues?
Well, I've known Mike McAlexander for years. I've worked closely with him. I don't see any issues working with him going forward. One thing that I would talk about with him going forward is maybe looking at a pre-arrest diversion program, meaning someone who gets arrested for low-level drugs that could be diverted from the jail and not actually have to go to jail, keeping people out from these low-level drug charges and keeping them out of the jail, but diverting them into some other program that would also help alleviate the jail counts. I think that would be a good way to go forward with the new prosecutor.
Troy, any rebuttal?
No.
So now that Indiana allows carrying a handgun without a permit, how has that changed policing? Kevin, you answer this question first.
Well, I have to tell you, I know law enforcement all around the state were against this new permitless carry law. I'm against that new permitless carry law. The issue is it's most likely going to end up getting somebody hurt. Now, here's what I'll tell you. I am a proponent of the Second Amendment. I believe that people have the right to bear arms, but I'm also of the opinion that we should be using smart laws to when it comes to firearms. Allowing anybody to carry a firearm without having some kind of background check is a recipe for disaster.
Troy, same question. How has Indiana allowing carrying a handgun without a permit changed policing?
Well, it's definitely going to change our tactics and has changed our tactics, because now a gun can be in a car and there's not much we can do about it unless they admit to, or we have to do some due diligence out in our patrol car to see if they can carry or not have this gun. In days past, when they had to have a permit, it allowed us the opportunity at a quick verification to know if this gun belonged to them or not. So what it has done is it's prevented us from taking guns off the street and perhaps helping to stop a shooting before it occurs. So it's changed our tactics and how we approach this issue.
Kevin, any rebuttal?
Yeah, so this law has actually made it much more difficult for officers to figure out who's a proper person or who's not a proper person, and that's an issue, and that's putting those officers in danger when they're trying to figure that out. And sometimes it might take a long time to figure out if someone is a proper person or not, and that's not acceptable.
Troy, you also get 30 seconds.
No.
Indiana's Jake Laird law allows seizures of firearms from individuals who are deemed dangerous. What's your position on red flag laws, and how will your department use them? Troy, you answer first.
It's been around about 10 years. I believe in it. It has its purpose. We've used it on several occasions. For when those folks who have not used their weapon correctly and have displayed mental illness or troubles, we have taken their weapons, petitioned the court for the seizure of those weapons, and the judge has granted that. I believe it's an important resource for us. In fact, this last school shooting sounds that perhaps there was maybe some kind of issue along that line. I don't know all that for certain yet. Could have been just the family voluntarily surrendered the weapons. But we need to have that resource available to us if we identify somebody with mental health issues, so we can petition the judge so we may take those firearms for safekeeping.
Kevin, same question. What is your position on red flag laws, and how will your department use them?
So I have actually had experience with the red flag laws. We helped serve a search warrant with the Drug Enforcement Administration on a person who was dealing drugs. That person had lots of firearms in their home, and as a result, we determined that that person was a danger to themselves or others, so we removed all of those firearms from that home. As we were there and that person left the scene because they were not under arrest at the time, that person drove to a firearms dealer and tried to purchase another firearm. We called that dealer, we stopped that purchase from happening, and we made sure that those guns were secure, that we were safe, the person was safe, and the community was safe. Red flag laws work, and I will tell you from experience, it's really important. I would make sure that the Sheriff's Department has all the training they need to be able to effectively use that law.
Troy, do you have any rebuttal?
No.
Our next question is another one from the Fort Wayne NAACP. What should citizens do if they witness police brutality? Kevin, this question starts with you.
Well, if a citizen witnesses police brutality, number one, if they have a phone, I would ask that they record that police brutality. Video evidence is some of the best evidence that we have, and they need to report that right away. Internal Affairs is set up so that any citizen can make a complaint against officers who are doing wrong, and I would encourage the citizens to do that. And if they have video evidence, that's even better. I've worked in Internal Affairs before. It's a needed function of a police department, and holding officers accountable that are doing wrong is really, really important, and that is what I would do as the next sheriff.
Troy, same question to you. What should citizens do if they witness police brutality?
Well, they should record it and report it. And if they can't record it, report it. As a former Internal Affairs officer for the Sheriff's Department, I take it very serious. We have a standard to uphold, and I would expect that. It's all about integrity. Without integrity, the citizens of this community will not have any confidence in what we do. They have to have confidence in what we do, and body cameras would be part of that. Body cameras would help document any incident between our officer and the public.
Kevin, any rebuttal?
Yes, so when the Fort Wayne Police Department first started using in-car cameras, we saw our complaints go down significantly. Body cameras are also something that would be really helpful to not only keep officers in check, but then exonerate officers if they've been accused of doing something wrong and then there's no evidence of that.
Troy, 30 seconds if you like.
Nope.
This question comes from the League of Women Voters of Fort Wayne. What other government entities or third-party agencies do you view as critical allies in addressing your highest priority issues, and how do you intend to collaborate with them to achieve your goal? Troy, we start with you.
Oh, I believe it's the mental health. Our community provider for mental health through the Commissioner's Office is Park Center. And I believe in the future it will be a very integral part in how we do and perform in the jail moving forward. See, when they deinstitutionalized the mental health facilities 20 years ago, over that time, those folks have come in and out of the criminal justice system. We've asked people who could navigate their own lives to now navigate the criminal justice system, in addition to already trying to navigate the mental health system. So we need to do a better job in coming to a very good collaboration. I don't know what that looks like yet, but we need to have this collaboration and get this figured out because this is a growing community problem.
Kevin, same question. What other government entities or third-party agencies do you view as critical allies if you were to become sheriff?
Well, so I've already established great working relationships with Parkview Behavioral Health, Park Center, and the other mental health providers, and all the drug treatment providers in this community. We created a program called the Hope and Recovery Team a few years ago. I have 2 detectives and 2 master's level social workers that go out in the community and talk with people who have overdosed on drugs, and we connect them to treatment services. Having those established relationships already is really important. I would continue those relationships. By working together and collaborating on these issues, we can really help our community do better and get better.
Troy, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Nope.
All right, thank you both.
We move on to our last question of the debate tonight, also coming to us from the League of Women Voters of Fort Wayne. Kevin, you have this question first. What would you like the voters to better understand about the responsibilities of being sheriff?
Well, to me, it sounds like the sheriff has a very difficult job going forward. Certainly, the biggest issue right now is the jail, the overcrowding, and the federal lawsuit. We really have to address those issues going forward. We have to lower the count in the jail, and we have to be creative and proactive in that role of being the sheriff for this department.
So Troy, same question to you. What would you like the voters to better understand about the responsibilities of being sheriff?
Well, the responsibilities of being sheriff is, first off, you have to have patrol division, the investigative unit, and our vice and narcotics unit to service those citizens out there in rural county, in the unincorporated towns and areas of Allen County. We're the country police. But we also have the constitutional responsibility of the warrants division in maintaining all our criminal warrants and arrest warrants, ensuring that they're entered in a timely manner, as well as taken off in a timely manner and expunged. We also have a duty to be an arm of the court. We serve subpoenas. We serve eviction notices. We also provide security to our courts and bailiffs. And we also obviously have the jail. Now, the problem with we have as the office of sheriff is we don't dictate who's in the jail, how long they stay in the jail. That's up to the judicial system. In addition to the building and the grounds are all up to the commissioner's office. So we have to work collaboratively with all those folks to come to a good solution.
And that's your time. Kevin, do you have any rebuttal?
No.
All right, gentlemen, you're almost home. We now move to closing statements. Each candidate will have 30 seconds. And Troy, we start with you.
Well, over my whole career, I walked in the door to the Allen County Sheriff's Department as a 22-year-old kid in 1989. And I spent the first 7 years in the jail. I also spent time in the jail as a supervisor. I spent time as a supervisor in our patrol division. I've been our investigations commander. I've been our internal affairs officer. I've been our deputy chief of operations and our deputy chief of administration. And in the last 18 months, I've been that chief deputy. And I've gained that institutional knowledge that's necessary to start January 1st.
And Kevin, your closing statement, you also get 30 seconds.
So voters have a choice. They can choose the status quo, like what we currently have, which has led us to a federal lawsuit at the Allen County Jail, or they can choose someone who is a proactive, collaborative leader who has 21st century thinking and who will make sure that Allen County is the safest place it can be. That person is me.
Gentlemen, that concludes the Wayne 15 Allen County Sheriff debate in partnership with the League of Women Voters and Fort Wayne and the Mike Downs Center for Indiana Politics. Now remember, early voting is happening now through November 7th, and then Election Day, Tuesday, November 8th.
PFW Political Science Professor Mike Wolf, thank you again for being with us today, and thank you to both of the candidates, as well as to all of you who submitted your questions. Thank you for joining us live here on Wayne.com. We will have a recap coverage of this debate tonight on Nightcast at 11. Good night.